Well, I'm from Martha's Vineyard originally. I was born there, and I grew up in Chilmark, very small town, and my family's lineage history goes back there for generations. I think I'm the 17th, if you follow my father's mother's line back. So it's a place I'm very connected to. Originally, the intention was to have a summer home, and as a builder and a developer in New York, my best value add is when building something new or renovating something that's in distress. So we started looking at land, and I toured around with a childhood friend, a real estate agent on the island, and she suggested looking at the property that we eventually ended up buying, which has some very unique characteristics. With the prefab, you're able to basically pre-cut everything. Everything is cut in a controlled factory environment. It's humidity controlled. So the pieces really will go together like Legos. The wood never sits. So it's not hydrating and dehydrating and moving and affecting your angles. And when you're done, you end up with a much better plumb square situation, which lends itself to everything. These are like the first rules of building anything. It's square, it's tight, the water stays out. So we started investigating that, and Turkel came up just through flipping through a Dwell magazine. And then we liked the design visually, and as we looked deeper into it, well, we contacted Turkel, and then we started talking about function and how the process works. And yeah, it just was a good fit. I mean, I enjoyed the conversations, and I felt like we were on the same page, and what they were producing was what I wanted for my end product. And they were smart. They knew what they were talking about. And I deal with architects all day long, so I'm a pretty good judge. Turkel treated us like any architect would. How does your family function? How do you live your life? From like a home design standpoint, you're starting with the function of you and your family's life, integrating that into one of these designs or taking one of these designs and then adjusting it into what your family's life function is. And it was a very smooth, easy process with people who knew what they were doing and knew how to anticipate how to help you find your way to where you're going to actually live. The design that we chose was kind of driven by the amount of square footage we actually had available to us. And we just liked the general aesthetic of it. We bounced around a lot. My wife and I like this part of this, I like this part of this. And then we finally just like, look, we have to decide what we're going to do and do it. And we did. We also knew from our interaction with Turkel at the beginning that this is prefabricated based on the design. It's flexible. We can make changes, and we did. We moved some rooms around. We increased the size of the east side of the house. We added a walk-down well and sunk the foundation to like 10.5, 11 feet and created finished space. So yeah, you're working with an architect who's designing your house. The system that you use is much more human user friendly. It allows somebody who doesn't do what I do and look at the kind of documents I look at day in and day out to understand how these rooms will look and how the flow of the space will function. It was like it worked in two phases. I was responsible for providing setup and foundation, and then Turkel comes in and erects the core and shell, put the skid on, and then I came back in after them and fitted out the inside. Oh, it was great. I mean, I was actually very, very surprised at the efficiency of it and how fast it happened. It really went up fast, and everything was straight. Basically, Turkel turned the house over to me after it was framed up and tight, and it was plumb and square, which is at the end of the day what it has to be. The stick build, there's always problems with that, and in this case, there really weren't. It was really something. Places like Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket are excruciatingly expensive to build in. Just the overall economy of an island like this, food, housing, everything just drives the price of everything up. So to stick build what we did would have cost, I'm figuring 25% more per square foot than what it actually did doing it this way. The only change orders that came up were based on my changing the design. They weren't field condition. They weren't oops. They weren't I didn't see this coming. They just weren't. The only time anything changed from a price standpoint is if I change my design. Right around sunset on the island, especially in August, there's a big open area in front of the house. It's probably like I said, about 2 acres, and there's a big grove of beech trees, maybe 1,000 feet in front of the house, and the sun will set behind us to the right. And what happens is there's all this reflected red light that comes off of the trees and becomes very quiet and still. And that's the most peaceful moment of my day. And there it's going to be something really magical. With this house, you're going to experience this from the kitchen, from the living room, from the dining room, from the patio outside, from the deck outside. It's really going to be something.